Hi, my name is Elysa Goldberg. I am 19 years old and I'm going to be a sophomore this fall at Ball State University. And I am majoring in psychology and minoring in studio art. And today I wanted to share my experience of what it's been like living through the COVID-19 pandemic. So I wanted to rewind back to early March of 2020. I went to Florida with my dad for a couple days to visit my grandparents before the virus was really prominent in the US. And as I was visiting in Florida, that's when one of the first pretty well known cases there became publicized on the news. And so we were still able to enjoy our vacation and we came back safely, but headed back, we were definitely more cautious as far as, sanitizing the airplane seats a little bit more and definitely using a lot more hand sanitizer here and there. But we made it back safely and I went back to school and everything was still fairly normal. For the most part, we were there for about a week and then we had received an email on that Wednesday, March 11th, 2020, telling us that we would be switching to online classes. And so at first, a lot of us were pretty upset, but when we realized we could still stay on campus at the time, a lot of us were happy we could do online classes, but still, be in the comfort of being in our dorms on campus so we could be with our friends to help support each other through this. So they would be switching to online classes by March 16th. So we had like those last 2 days of the week of in school classes, and then they quickly switched to online. So I actually went home for just a couple days because I was a little sick, but not related to COVID-19. It was just a small cold, but my parents thought it would be best for me to go home for a bit, just so I could recover and then go back to school as normal, especially since I could do things from the comfort of, you know, home since the classes were online. So I did that, but while I was home, we all got another email saying now that they were completely closing campus by the end of March. So we all had to move out. So as soon as I was feeling better, I went back to school. Um, so I could obviously move my things out and say goodbye to everyone because we were all kind of leaving at once. We all decided it was best to leave as quickly as we could. Obviously, we were all pretty devastated at that point because we were hoping we could at least finish out the year on campus, especially since it was our freshman year. So that was a little bit devastating. But so once I was home after me and my roommate had moved out by the end of that weekend, we were fully, obviously full blown online, doing our work in our PJs from our, bedroom, e-learning. So once I was home, it really started hitting me that just how abrupt the virus was tackling each state. So the case numbers were rising really fast in a lot of states, as well as the death numbers as well. So it all seemed really surreal because suddenly restaurants, malls, movie theaters, pretty much anything you can think of besides the essential stores such as pharmacies and grocery stores were closing. So for almost the first 2 months, I'd say, I pretty much did not leave my house at all, besides to, go for a walk around the neighborhood every once in a while just to get some fresh air. Um, but none of us really left our houses. So my sister, she's a sophomore in high school at the time, so she had her classes online as well. My mom, she works for the school system, so of course she was home as well. And my dad was the only one really going out. He still had his job, but his hours were shortened quite a bit, so he wasn't going out too often. And besides that, the only other time my parents left the house was to go grocery shopping when we really needed it, which was a pretty big ordeal when they would go. They would wear their masks and they wanted to be in and out of the store as quickly as possible. But when they came back, what we did was we almost had this assembly line starting in the garage, and we literally wiped down and disinfected every single item that they bought before we brought it into our house because at the time, especially towards the beginning of quarantine, people were really trying to be extra cautious when they weren't sure how easily the virus could be spread before we got a little bit more information on how easily it was spread. So and a lot of people were being extra cautious. So as time went on, March kind of came and went, but it definitely felt like a whole year in itself. And, April came and went as well. And starting in May, by that point, I feel like pretty much everyone was going fairly stir crazy, being stuck in their houses for that long. But little by little, by the end of May, starting into June, places were finally starting to open back up. The process of reopening was slowed in waves. So, for example, some of the restaurants slowly started opening. Some of them were still doing takeout, but when they did do dine in, they only had a small percentage of people that could go in at a time to actually dine there. And as stores slowly opened, they urged us to wear masks and to social distance, which was to maintain that 6 feet of space. Which I feel like if we had like a word or two to sum up, 2020 right now, I feel like social distancing would have been will be a very commonly used word by the end of the year, which I feel like it already is. But I finished my regular classes for spring semester, and then I soon switched to online classes for summer. I was going to take at least one summer class, regardless of the pandemic, but with it happening and a lot of my summer plans being canceled due to everything going on, I felt like it would be a good use of my time to take another class. So I decided to take this class that was, fully based on understanding COVID-19. So my summer classwork, Netflix, and TikTok were pretty much the only things I did, especially the first couple months of quarantine when I literally did not leave my house because I hadn't seen my friends in months. So, in person anyway. So, we would do video chatting and we would text each other to try to update each other on our lives, but not that our lives were too exciting anyway. But my family and I, we had a huge trip to Europe planned towards the beginning of July, and of course, that was canceled due to what was going on. So that was pretty upsetting as well. This summer was definitely turning out to be not what we expected at all. But if we flash forward to where we are now, today's July 18th, 2020, we are still in the midst of this pandemic. So most places are open by this point, but the numbers are still soaring, specifically in a lot of the more um, crowded states such as New York and Florida, and so my grandparents, they live in Florida. So I've been having a lot of my communication with them through the phone or video chatting. We've been filling each other in on what we're binge watching, or like when we find the newest can of Lysol spray, since that's been really hard to find since everyone has been shopping for that right now. Um, and masks have never been made mandatory everywhere, but more and more research is coming out to support that they really are helping prevent the spread of the virus. And so while a lot of people are wearing their masks, a lot of other people aren't. So it's almost like this battle between the mask wearers and the mask avoiders. So the people who are wearing masks kind of tend to look down on the people who aren't, and then the people who aren't just kind of roll their eyes on the people who are. But that's kind of been our new normal as far as, whether to wear a mask or to not. Um, but just recently, places like Kroger and Walmart, they started making it mandatory to wear masks in a lot of their locations. So I'm hoping with that, it looks like a lot more stores are slowly following suit. So hopefully that'll help slow the spread of the virus at least a little bit, especially if they're at least going to keep the stores open for us to go, trying to keep it a little safer for us. But the big question right now is what we're going to do about schools. So a lot of the public schools and universities are still trying to work to perfect their plans as we get closer to August. As of now, I'm happy to say Ball State is doing everything they can to ensure that we can go back to school in a safe schoolwork environment. So whether that's having some of our classes shift to online or some of them being broken up into smaller class sizes, they're doing what they can to keep us safe. And I feel like grade schools have a bigger concern recently just of what they're going to do just based on how the schools are obviously much tighter and closer together, so it's a lot harder to social distance in them. My sister's high school right now is giving her the option of whether or not she wants to do online or in class, so it's kind of been up to each family to decide what they feel is best for their student. But these last few months have just been absolutely unbelievable. It almost feels like we're living in this weird, just horror movie because these masks that we wear every day, they're just as common as like wearing a pair of socks nowadays. And the amount of deaths is continuing to still rise. And we really just don't know how long this will continue to last. Like, this is just our new normal. And so I feel like when I decide to leave the house for, even to go grocery shopping, it's exciting nowadays just because I still try not to leave the house as often as I used to, just because, of everything going on. And these last few months of the pandemic have just felt like a whole year in itself. But regardless, I just wanted to say thank you so much to whoever may be watching this. This class has really opened my eyes, even more so to help me kind of get a deeper understanding of what has, come along with the pandemic and everything that's occurring. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening to this, and I really hope you are staying safe out there, and thank you so much.